After last week's thriller on the banking at Daytona, the Spec-5 World Tour heads to round 6, Sonoma, California. A little bit less flat out, a lot more elevation through the hills of the Bay Area here in California. 2.47 miles. Weather very nice actually for this time of year and for California, and a 45-minute race ahead of us as per usual. Before they can go racing, they've got to go qualifying. And thanks for joining us for HJBC coverage, where we're bringing you every race, even if we have to replay it, this season of Spec-5 World Tour. David Haynes here. Alex Albert joins me this week, as Devon is probably busy herding moose or something. And Michael Derby producing, bringing you all of the beautiful pictures, angles, replays, all of it throughout our coverage today. Alex, you and I know just a little bit about racing some MX-5s. There's 27 of them so far, looking like they're shaping up for today's grid.
Well, that should be exciting, David. Here at Sonoma, where it is quite twisty, and I think the MX-5 will really be able to show off its ability to change direction, and with all the elevation change, it should be some pretty exciting racing.
You're absolutely on it. Drivers are just getting around on their formation lap to get to the first of their 4 qualifying laps in this 15-minute session. Looking at Timon Bramley, who's clearly got some strategies about how to warm his brakes, warm his tyres, prepare for the 4 flying laps. There's a driver that we're not looking at, and you want to know how they're doing in qualifying. HJBC.live has your live timing for Spec-5 World Tour, and you can keep across of your teammates, your friends, your family, your favourite drivers. How will the pit stop times compare when we get to that in the race? And of course, keep a good eye on qualifying and their order as well as it updates. 2 classes of driver in otherwise entirely identical cars. We have the Pro Class drivers and the Open Class drivers. Of course, the Pro Class is our fastest drivers, but with equal cars and equal chance, we did have one very, very industrious Open Class driver come away with the outright race win. That was not a tongue twister, but I almost made a meal of it at Daytona. So you never know what could happen, and it's always great to see one of the Open Class drivers really maybe punch above their weight a little bit. Alex, first flying laps underway right now. What are you seeing?
I think we have our eyes here on the 135 as he's working down through turn 4. And as they approach the carousel here, you want to keep the car over to the right as you come over this hill, slowing it down. And then it's really blind, but this is one of the greatest turns in North America. And you really slide down through there, trying to keep the car in close to the curb, maximize that exit speed, and head on down here to the hairpin. As you see Joshua nailing the brakes here, hitting the double apex, heading back down through the S's and back down towards you in the pit lane.
You know it, Joshua Soto using some of those curbs through this twisty section here. Key is carrying speed in these cars the way that they race. You want to carry as much sort of apex speed, as much exit speed as possible as well, and this section of corners is just too tight to be flat out, as is shown by Joshua Soto, kicking up a little bit of that dust. I'm told during spring it's green here, but during summer and the fall, no, it is quite dusty around Sonoma, depending on how their California weather is going. We're about to see the first of some of these flying laps come in and give us an idea of what a good time might look like. So for Joshua Soto, he would go to the top there with a 1:45.9. It gets shuffled back to third pretty quickly. We know that the fastest lap of the session is usually the 3rd or 4th lap.
That's interesting. I guess it just takes a little bit to build up the heat into the tires and just get everything to optimal grip. Oh, wow, as we see Ian Giebler, they're sending it through turn 2, 3, really carrying a lot of speed there in the 404 Air racing car.
You can tell he's a little bit of a programmer, but yeah, he's 5th at the moment, which is pole for the open class. It's only Camden Hibbett, Nick Rice-Puto, Joshua Soto, and Ronnie Coates ahead of him at the moment. The column has the 18 drivers who set qualifying times at the moment. You can see there's a couple, particularly there in the open class, that haven't set a time yet. I suspect track limits around here in qualifying might be a bit tougher than Daytona and some other places. You've got that S's section down that Zeus Dalston is in right now, as well as a couple of chicanes where the fastest line is to really hop the curbs, and you might get too eager with that.
Yeah, for sure. You need to, I'd say, carefully manage through there. Especially as the tires get older, that sweeper at the end of the S's as you head back towards the hairpin, that could be really tough. And I think we'll see some guys maybe dropping some wheels, and the guys behind them might be carrying the full head of steam, not needing to lift. We might see a little bit of action there, and I think we both know that we'll see a ton of action down in the hairpin with some probably late braking maneuvers. And some alternate lines. There's really, I feel like, a couple ways to get through there. And I think we'll see this play out.
Still no time for Zeus Dalston, so we might stick with him a little bit on this run, see where it is that he's maybe troubling the track limits, which is the key thing that would throw away your lap time. And there's a lot of blind apexes, particularly here. They're approaching over the crest, completely blind, into the long left-hander known as the carousel. There has got to be about a dozen corners in World Motorsport called the carousel. Nürburgring's got one. Watkins Glen has got one. I think Mid-Ohio's got one.
Yeah, man, it's really hard to, I guess if I have to pick one, it's the Nürburgring, right? It's the OG.
It's got the best photos.
Yeah, for sure. We'll give Sonoma best carousel of the West, Road America, Central Region, and Watkins Glen. I feel like, for me, if not the East, maybe the North American champion.
Okay, Nürburgring's got the European title absolutely locked down. In fact, it's got 2, doesn't it? It's got a big one.
The world title as well.
The carousel.
Yeah,
in its weight class. Final corner there for Zeus Dalston, who's hoping to move off the bottom of open class. Only him and Gareth Brocklesby don't have a time yet in qualifying in that open class of our blue number drivers. And no more for Zeus Dalston. He moves up into 8th, but I'm sure now he's got a time on the board. He can push on a little bit more, I think he is. How about for the pole position? How about for the outright? Timon Bramley, he's in that top time right now, but he's going even quicker on this lap. Personal best through the first sector. Purple, all the way to these final 2 corners where he's got to carry maximum speed through that sweeper and then brake late as he dare for this hairpin.
Wow, and it looks like he really nailed it right there, holding it close to those tire bundles, getting back on the gas, sweeping out, and you got to be careful there on the straightaways. We saw earlier this year in the NASCAR Cup race, drivers misjudging the turn in when they're right behind another car and turning in a little too soon, clipping that fenders off of the wall, and that could, silly mistake like that can ruin your day. So I'm sure we'll see some tight racing here, nose to tail bumping along, and it's always important to keep an eye out for where you are on the track.
Bramley improves his lead up top, going a 1:45.0 there, but some of his purple sectors have been taken away from him. Some other drivers are on some quick laps at the moment. Camden Hibbett's stolen one, Nick Rice-Puto's stolen one, Ronnie Coates has stolen one from him, and those guys are a little bit in different places of their qualifying order here. So Camden Hibbett is now just finishing his 4th flying lap of qualifying. Checkered flags out on Camden Hibbett's qualifying, and his 4th lap is only a 1:45.3. He improves somewhat, but will remain in 2nd. Could be vulnerable to some of those other drivers with laps left underneath their sleeves, like Brett Marshall, like Timon Bramley. But you're seeing Odyssey Adams Jr., Josh Soto, they're done. There's only a couple drivers left that could take it away. Joel Singleton finishes up and goes 10th, but Brett Marshall, he's in a new livery from yesterday when I took his picture for the thumbnail, and he crosses the line. Not seeing many improvements.
No pickup there. No, David, not seeing a lot of quick sectors out of there. I think maybe it was lap 3 here, right? That was going to be the quickest. Looks like not a lot of guys picking up there on lap 4.
No, and Timon Bramley knew he wasn't up, so that was actually the end of his 4th lap there, where we saw him taking the pit entry, challenging pit entry here at Sonoma. Concrete canyon around the outside of the final corner. So that could be a big, big difference when we get into this race. We have that pit stop window, and the drivers are going to need to maximize their in-laps and their out-laps, and that is a lot easier said than done with the long pit entry here at Sonoma. Geordie Fike, 9th at the moment. He's on his 4th lap. Only one personal best sector of the 5 mini sectors available to my eyeballs.
Yeah, and where he's at right now, it's as you mentioned earlier, super challenging section, because if you get offline just a little bit, turn in wrong on one, you might pay for it for 3 or 4 apexes and end up giving up, maybe 2 seconds here. Where at a track, more simple track, something like Watkins Glen, like we were talking about, that might only be a 0.3 of a second mistake, because you can regain it on the next straightaway or kind of stabilize the loss. So, yeah, if a guy gets a little rattled back there through the S's, he can really pay for it.
Geordie Fike fell within 1/10 of a second of improving on that 4th lap, but couldn't. So who's left on an alternate run here? Yeah, David Staub, for example, is 20th, just finishing his 3rd lap, which is a little improvement only to 18th. One more still to go. The other drivers with laps to run, I think, might be Michael Coates, Ray Lombardi, and Rui Coimbra. So there's a few cars that will be out there to the end of this 15-minute session.
As we are watching Michael Coates here, he's on lap 3. We think this will probably be his quickest one, if it's anything like the rest of the field. Swinging through that high-speed right-hander that we were talking about, probably around 9,500 miles an hour, as he lines it up to stand on the brakes, aim it in, try to find his apex, start to roll back into the throttle, track it out here to the wall, taking a short path to the line this time. Is he going to go quicker, David? Not quite. He's got one more though, right? Yep.
Another driver just within 1/10 of their best time, but not improving. And you see the trouble that the elevation poses around here as the rear stepped out at the top of the hill. What I'd be tempted to call turn 1, but is officially turn 2. And then here, it looks great from the TV camera, but you're blind from the driver's seat over some of these crests, particularly here up the top of the hill. And that is just on the grippy stuff. Rui Coimbra can be super quick. He's on a bit of a tight line into 2 there on this lap. When he has to tap the brakes very, very late past the apex. That's not optimal.
Yeah. We know the 78 is quick just about every time we see him, so I think maybe this is all in the plan. If yeah, we'll get back around, start the optimal lap just as qualifying, the last laps will start. So I don't think we can write him off from being up at the front just yet.
Rui can be a strong competitor. He's a race winner in Spec-5 World Tour. Now this is not necessarily a track where passing is as easy as Daytona, where we were a week ago. So where he's tracking right now in qualifying would make things difficult, but not impossible for him. 45 minutes of racing is a decent chunk of racing in these cars. And again, every Spec-5 World Tour race has a pit stop window, and that gives you a bit of flexibility to try to strategize your way forward and not be impeded so much, and let your true race pace show a little more than if you got buried in the pack for good. But he's got one last braking zone here, where you try to measure it by those cones or by the tires or by the pit entry there on the outside of the hairpin.
Yeah, advise not using the cones. Try to find something more permanent. Those cones might not make it all race.
So he crosses the line, and Rory Coimbra is looking like he is done. And the best he can offer is a 1:48.0, which is a surprise to me. He's 27th. Where is the time going relative to the pole sitter?
Is
half
it
a second in sector 1, half a second in sector 2? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the end of 15 minutes.
All right, David. Well, there's our lineup. Why don't you run us down?
Grid's ready for Spec-5. World Tours Round 6 from Sonoma. Timon Bramley takes the pole position from Camden Hibbett, Joshua Soto, Odyssey Adams, Ronnie Coates, Nick Rice-Puto, Brett Marshall, Michael Coates, Mitchell Peake, and Geordie Fike is our top 10. Underneath their number boards, you see the red dash. Those are all pro-class drivers. So is Eugenio Polici in 11th. Your open class pole sitter is Joel Singleton, denoted by the blue and the O. Brian Jabelski and Trevor Roy are 13th and 14th. Then Ian Giebler would be second open class, from Lee Martin third in the open class. Sean Hayes, David Starb, Greg Mack, and Zeus Stalston are the top 20. And then we've got Andy Kosick, Johnny Mauro, Ray Lombardi, Orlando Harrell, Paulo Coimbra, S. Greenwood. Okay, he's got no first name on this one. Rui Coimbra is the last driver with a qualifying time. Gareth Brocklesby has none, and he's the 28th MX5 here in Spec-5 World Tour. Full pace lap, scenic tour of wine country coming up for Sonoma.
Yeah, such a beautiful area, and maybe if iRacing gets a rescan, we can maybe when the rain comes, it'll finally turn the grass green, like you mentioned, because some of the pictures that we see from here, whenever the Lemon Series, for instance, is racing here, it's very beautiful and green. But today it'll be more like the Cup Series weather, nice and hot. And I think that we might see some people do a little bit of off-roading, a little bit of dust might fly, David. And I think the action's going to start right there at the bottom of the hill in turn 1, because it can kind of bait you into thinking it's wider than it is.
Every corner around here has just a little bit of surprising challenge. There's the drag strip. Remember to get on Google Maps, look at the street view, because you can look at 2 street view cars drag racing each other on the drag strip here at Sonoma. There are some weird Google Maps features in the Bay Area on account of how many Google staff interact with all that kind of stuff. Are you a Sonoma wine trolley or Napa Valley wine train kind of guy?
I think a trolley sounds like fun. Not much of a wine guy, but I reckon they'd have some beers.
I think their hospitality would allow them to accommodate you. And that pace car driver is brave, because he follows the speed limit no matter what. 60 miles an hour. Is it a hairpin? He's doing 60. Is it flat out and straight? He's doing 60. So he's tough to keep up with in the corners, and he drags a little bit in straight line. I would love one of those RVs on the inside of the carousel there. You would have one hell of a view across not only that corner, but a lot of the circuit around here. Up the top of the hill, I reckon, is where the good views are.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can watch them probably from the hairpin, down through the S's, back up here towards this hairpin. Oh, yeah, for sure. And this section of the track here, a bit of a double apex hairpin, really high speed. Once the tires wear down a bit, we'll see some guys push out wide, some other dudes able to hang it on the inside, and then maybe some converging vectors there towards the exit.
It's about to heat up on track in more ways than one because the track temperature has climbed a couple degrees since qualifying. The server time is about 11:30 in the morning, so still the full heat of the day to come. It's not going to cool off as this race goes on. It's only going to heat up, and that's another reason why the drivers, most of them, were on track early in qualifying. The best conditions were right at the start. It wasn't going to cool off. It's about to get very, very hot at Sonoma for round 6 of the Spec-5 World Tour. The pace car is in. Simon Bramley has got the pole alongside Camden Hibbett, and they're ready for a green flag to get 45 minutes of racing underway. The back of the field making its way through the hairpin as the leaders get towards the start straight. The green flag waves, and Camden Hibbett might have gotten a good start there on the outside line. Odyssey Adams has got a mega start as well. He's pulling out a line a little bit, but he's about to get sandwiched alongside Nick Rice-Prudo up to the top of the hill. Tyres still cold for everyone. They're slipping, they're sliding about, but the pole sitter gets away with the race lead, and he's going to leave all the shenanigans in his wake.
Yeah, very clean start there. Looks like everyone got through the first couple turns nice and clean. Getting single file here, continuing the race nice and clean, and the leader starting to stretch out just a bit on the rest of them.
About to go over the crest and down in towards the carousel. There's a couple drivers getting pretty close here, like second and third, and some of the rows behind. And the slipstream, maybe it starts to play a little bit as they come out of the carousel. Ooh, okay, there's the track limits for Nick Rice-Prudo in 4th. Odyssey Adams behind him, and then Ronnie Coates behind him. You can pass someone here, trying to take a different line through this double apex hairpin is Odyssey Adams so that he doesn't get boxed in behind Nick Rice-Prudo. Meanwhile, it looks like Ronnie Coates starting to come under a bit of attack from Michael Coates, spelt differently, pronounced the same, inseparable on track for maximum confusion. Through the S's on the opening lap now, and your biggest mover so far has been Johnny Mauro up in the 19th. 3 positions gained on the opening lap. Rui Coimbra's gained 3 as well, like we would expected. We know he can have really quick race pace. Don't know what was going on in qualifying, but he'll do his best in this 45 minutes of racing. And Nick Rice-Prudo's also made up a couple spots from 6th on that grid into 4th. Through the hairpin for the first time they go. It's looking good for Simon Bramley at the moment.
Yeah, he's working his way to build quite the lead. Nice and tidy as I say that, he goes out and just kisses the edge of the track. They're throwing it up on 2 wheels. But Camden Hibbett chasing hard from 2nd.
Oh, someone's gone wide just behind this, and then Michael Coates has a moment. So Odyssey Adams went wide, and Ronnie Coates got past him, and now Michael Coates has had a little bit of a moment. Let's look at this here. So there's Odyssey just running it in wide. Coates gets past, and then other Coates, yeah, he gets it sideways there as well. Ends up side by side with Brett Marshall there, rocking the purple.
Yeah, I think it looked like Coates just got a little bit loose there, maybe on the brakes. Couldn't tell if he got any help, but good to see everyone got away with it and back underway.
Andy Kosick has been the next victim of Rui Coimbra's charge through the field, but no, Kosick's managed to just hold him off as Coimbra got side by side. Look at Coimbra in red moving around, trying to take a different line through these S's so that he can set up his exit on the highly reflective, maximally mincy machine of Andy Kosick.
Yeah, Andy's cars always do look very nice. Oh, and minty, and as we see Roya go off the track, able to not lose any positions and keep right on the bumper of the 50 car at the apex, losing a little there on the car on the corner exit.
Yeah, so a big off-road run there for Coimbra right as he was about to set it up, and Odyssey Adams is losing another spot just further up the road. Now Michael Coates gets through a couple of times. This car has gone wide, not gotten to the apex, and others have managed to get through. So Michael Coates gains a spot, and then he immediately runs it off the road. It manages to get back on just in time to get the car slowed for the corner, or does he? Now he's off the road. There's super sticky grass and dirt out there. You can't carry speed through it like you used to be able to. Odyssey Adams gets it back. Brett Marshall's trying to go around the outside on the carousel, and the rest of them are sort of watching on behind. No grip off the line there for Brett Marshall, though. I tell you what, this sort of third lap, it's starting to heat up.
For sure. They don't want to waste any time. We're 5 minutes in, but here we go. That was some of the stuff we talked about early in the race, pushing in a little bit too hard in that double apex. The 22 losing a spot there to Coates.
So back and forth, Michael Coates and Odyssey Adams Jr. at the moment, and it's creating a big lineup, a Napa Valley wine train behind them of, Mitchell Peak is next, and then Brett Marshall, and then Geordie Fike, and then Joel Singleton. And you see the track limits on the exit here can be a bit of a struggle, but under attack down the inside will go Mitchell Peak, trying to have the short run through this little hairpin. It's just not working out. He's discombobulated a little bit, Odyssey Adams. It's like he's gotten into this race and then lost his force feedback, or he's gotten dirt on his tires and he just can't get the grip back under him. It's just not matching what you'd expect to see after that qualifying. It's not tidy like it ought to be.
No, and I think Brett Marshall has taken note of that and is ready to try to take advantage of it here as we see him close in as they approach turn 3.
And what I mean to say by some of this is it's not slow, it's just a little untidy, a little clumsy, and that keeps offering an opportunity to some of the cars behind to maybe try and pass him. State of the race now on lap 4 is your top 4 are getting away. Ronnie Coates is in 5th. And then you've got this big old train, Michael Coates, in 6th, where he's leading sort of all the way down to sort of 20th place or so, all in a line there. He is 2nd, 3rd, 4th behind Camden Hibbert, and they're not letting Timon Bramley quite get away at the moment. Looks like Ronnie Coates has found a good turn of speed last lap and this lap. The fastest car out on track last lap to try to make sure he stays within a couple of seconds of that race lead. Great long shot across these S's.
Yeah, it looks like second place was a little bit quicker, David, there on that last
Actually,
lap.
It looks like 5th place was quickest, but went off track, and it didn't count as the fastest lap, but he still gained ground. So that is your top 5 from this shot here, and then it's sort of 3 seconds back from Ronnie Coates, who's not letting the leaders get away, to Michael Coates, where himself and Mitchell Peak have made some moves so far in this race. Odyssey Adams has settled it a little bit where he runs at the moment. Rui Coimbra has finally picked off Andy Cosick, and he's got a couple of other drivers lined up next. We might get one here offline up the top of the hill in front of Rui Coimbra is Ray Lombardi. Then running off the road, Gianni Maro. He had been the big mover. Now he loses some spots.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we knew might happen, David. It's a risk-reward track, right? You push in too hard, and sometimes it's really hard to tell with the elevation change. It's blind, and it unweights the car, and there we saw it again, slid off, and then, lost a ton of time.
So esports racer teammates Greg Mack and Ray Lombardi here together in 19th and 20th. But Rui Coimbra from Not a Team is trying to shape them up a little bit. Look at Ray Lombardi, half defensive line. Now, Rui Coimbra looks to the inside, can't get the nose in, tries to bet on Ray Lombardi running wide. Doesn't work just yet. Rui Coimbra has still, though, picked up 6 positions in fewer laps than that, getting the most recent one when Maro ran wide at turn 2, and I think he's maybe tricked Lombardi into getting offline here. It's a little bit sort of autocross. You get wide at one cone, you're wide at the next, you're wide at the next, you're wide at the next.
And the only way to get back online is to slow down, or to stop the bleeding, and no one wants to do that. So here we go, a little side-by-side action in there.
Yep, tidy work there. Inside line for the hairpin. Good chance to outbrake, keep your level side by side, and then work that position through the corner and get up into 20th for Rui Coimbra. Now 7 positions gained. Not all that far away from the pit window opening. I wonder who is positioned where they might benefit from pitting earlier. I don't think it's anyone in the top 5 here, but definitely anyone who feels like they're being held up. Maybe like Rui Coimbra. Maybe if there's someone in that next group, like I don't know if Brett Marshall thinks he's got a lot more speed than he's showing, or even Odyssey Adams, whose qualifying was really, really good and has just looked a little uncomfortable in the pack.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe Odyssey Adams might want to just kind of reset, go ahead and take the stop now. But as we both know, if you stop sooner, you're going to have to carry more weight around for longer. So if possible, I think the default stance would be to try to stay out when they can.
If you're going quick and things are going well, you want to stay out. If they're not, you might want to change it up or reset and come in a little early. That's sort of the way you normally think about, the strategy. If things are good, why would you change the status quo?
Absolutely right. And sometimes that's all you need for a reset is trip down the pit lane, let you get your breath, and you can go back out there and attack it without the other same cars around, and kind of hit it with a fresh mindset. As we see the most getting tapped from behind, taking the ride there.
Dalston making the move from the top rope there, and is looking like he's going to try to give that one back, and indeed he is. A misjudgment under braking in the pack there, and he does turn Andy Kosick around. Those drivers both racing for positions in the open class as well. Open class at the moment is led by Joel Singleton from Lee Martin and Ian Giebler.
Michael Coates there, he's continuing to lead our open class with a very strong run, pulling around the rest of these pro drivers.
That's a negative. Definitely pro for Michael Coates.
My bad. Sorry.
But he has got a very, very nice little train here. And it's Joel Singleton who is caboose position, this is always the strategy for the open drivers. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You want to go with some quick drivers. You don't want to fight with them. But if you get to a group of quick pro drivers and they're going to sprint away from where the rest of your open class competition is, where Joel Singleton is, the black and orange car at the tail here, he's in a good little spot as far as an open class drive is concerned.
Right, and they can just, they might even kind of ignore him, right? Because they're not so much racing him. He can just go along for the free tow and try to stay out of trouble here.
Speaking of, I think Michael Coates is giving up the lead of this group. I think he's letting Mitchell peek through. He's thinking, okay, if you're quicker than me, go on, man. Yeah. Oh, but then immediately, the moment you do it, Mitchell Peak runs wide in turn 1, costs them both a good chunk of time here, and needs to settle into his rhythm as the leading driver, figure out some different braking markers or whatever to show his speed and reward Michael Coates' trust and generosity.
Yeah, that turn at the top of the hill is so tough sometimes without a reference, and I think that's what happened. He just, the last few times through, he's had that green bumper to kind of judge off of. Oh, and here we go, another one in the grass. Looks like maybe Marshall?
It is. Brett Marshall's been through the dirt in the carousel as he's been knocked off his pony, and it happens, he gets to the inside here of a slightly wide car, and that's an odd one. Does it, is that a technical problem, or did he just run out of grip at the rear?
Yeah, it just looked like he lost grip. Maybe he touch to the brakes and the way the car was just kind of unweighted, it started to come around on him? I'm not sure there. That was kind of strange.
It's like maybe he thought he was going to get down the inside of the carousel on Odyssey Adams, and then the window closed and he like lifted off the throttle or tapped the brake a little bit, and doing that sort of sent him into the half spin that cost him a bit of time. I think the onboard's maybe the only thing that would kind of give me like a racing driver's insight into it, but no damage to the car, a little bit of damage to the Pride.
And not too much track position lost here, so continue on the fight. As we see our leaders here, as it's tightened up quite a bit, almost 4 cars under a blanket now.
If a blanket is 1 second, then yes. So Bramley's lead that had sort of been sort of touch and go from 1 second, Camden Hibbett and with him Joshua Soto and Nick Rice-Puto have closed it down now to about 3/10 as they go downhill through the carousel. You can tell they sort of dropped sort of 4 or 5 stories almost from the top of that corner to the exit of it. Quite significant drop there. Relatively flat as you break into what functions as a hairpin, even though it's kind of 2 corners, kind of 2 apexes. Really feels like a hairpin though.
Yeah, and that track falling away, that's going to give you less ability to turn the car. You know, as if you were to approach a turn where you're in the uphill, obviously the car's going to push into it more. So this being the opposite, it really makes it tough to try to keep your speed up while, and it almost feels like the track falls away right there. So very tough corner.
This leading group coming out of that, functionally the final corner. There's 1 or 2 here on what feels like the front straight that they count as a corner. Definitely this is turn 1 here, as you then go uphill into turn 2. Bramley leading them. No one, and I mean no one, has been to pit lane yet. So everyone still running except Gareth Brocklesby's off the lead lap. Other than that, everyone running, everyone on the lead lap. Joel Singleton still leading open class, and you're looking at the pro class group for the lead. I was going to say battle for the lead, but there's no point yet where these 4 have looked like a battle instead of, say, a convoy.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of just keeping up. You know, at this point, the leader's shown to have a lot of pace. So I think the rest of the guys are just trying to keep up with him right now. And, you know, everything's going pretty well. These guys are still sending it pretty hard. I noticed there at the high point of the circuit, I think it's around turn 4. You know, they're all sending it through there on 2 wheels. So, yeah, I think this track is pretty abrasive, though. I wonder how much fall off we'll see as the race goes on, and if we see, you know, varying tire strategies, how much that's going to play out.
Fastest lap time I've seen is a 1:45 flat. Officially, the fastest lap of the race belongs to Camden Hibbett with a 1:45.226, but Nick Rice-Puto has a 1:45.227. And the last lap for Bramley was a 1:45.8. He's about to cross the start-finish line with a 1:45.6. Eugenio Polici's the first taker to pit lane, and Lee Martin joins him. So we've got a pro and an open class driver on pit lane.
And I saw Ian Giebler go by there, and he looked like he was in a nice little battle.
Yeah, Giebler is now second in open class because Lee Martin has come to pit lane from second in that class. So a bold strategy to take Lee Martin to, I guess, do something different to what everyone else in the open class is doing at the moment. Remember, HJBC.live has the live timing if you want to look at pit stop times and all of that other stuff. But I'll tell you, 17 seconds for Eugenio Polici, 22 for Lee Martin. That might prove to end up being a little bit of a long stop. Zeus Dalston is now the driver. behind Eugenio Pellicci, but ahead of Lee Martin.
So, David, one thing I just thought of that you might want to go ahead and get your pit stop over with here now, if you can come out and clear traffic like we just saw those gentlemen, because as you also saw, the blend line and the racing line converge right there around the base of the bridge, and it can get very tight with the differing speeds. So we'll have to keep an eye on that if we have any cars that kind of go long and, you know, mix up the running order.
It's bordering on a 15-year-old meme, I think, at this point. Will it blend? Is the question to ask. If we get, you know, some drivers who pit really late and therefore rejoin, you know, in and amongst some packs or some traffic. One other driver, it looks, reacting to the pit stops we've seen, and Brian Jabelski is on the lane looking for where his pit crew is in this slightly confusing layout of a pit lane here at Sonoma. It's got half a corner in it, and if you stay in the very outside lane, it ends up there's a gap in the barrier there, and you end up on the racetrack, and it's a bit odd. But as you can tell, all four tires still firmly on the ground. No new tires being taken for Zabelski. Just how much fuel he thinks he's going to need to get to the end of this 45-minute race, which in his case is about 20. So splitting the difference between what we saw with Pellicci at 17 and Martin at 22.
Yeah, and as we see that car that was just pulling into their box there, holding a very tight line through the corner on pit lane, because as you mentioned, it's a long pit lane and it's very wide, and if you're not careful, you can add a few seconds to your journey.
Apparently, Will It Blend is actually 17 years old, which has dealt me psychological damage just now. Zeus Dalston, though, what on earth's going on with his pit stop as far as the tyres are concerned? It's also a long one. So after, as well, contact with Andy Kosick, things not quite going to plan in this race for Zeus Dalston. Leaders here are all staying out. And again, that plays to what we talked about before about if the status quo is benefiting you, why would you change the status quo too early? You're not going to get a massive Formula One style undercut off of new tires. In fact, you're going to hurt yourself a little bit on the outlap trying to warm them up to begin with.
Yeah, Ronnie Cox hanging tough there by himself, trying to work down that gap. He's got it just about 3 seconds right now, and I think he'd like to get up there and get some of that sweet draft here. If he can just bridge another 2 seconds or so. That's
the struggle, isn't it? He was almost with them, and then we had sort of Hibbert, Soto, and Rice Puto close up so the half a second to Bramley, and that took them away from Ronnie Coates and left him painfully in this spot where he can see them all, but he just can't get as close as he would like. David Starb, Sean Hayes, and Rui Coimbra coming through the pit lane. So I guess Coimbra's early stop makes quite a bit of sense. He's coming out of pit lane, but that's a long lane time for a short stop time. Has he had a problem on pit entry? Or have I got faulty numbers?
Yeah, it looks like maybe almost 10 seconds slower than some of the other cars.
So, officially the pit lane time doesn't start until here. And where do you lose? He's qualifying will have had him in the 20th pit box, and he's missed it. He's used to qualifying in the top 5. He's not used to starting the race in 20 something position, and he's shot past his pit crew and some.
Yeah, that's tough, David.
It's like Lewis Hamilton's first year at Mercedes when he accidentally pulled into the McLaren pit box. I don't know, you're used to being up the front of the grid and then suddenly your mechanics are in a different spot. It throws you off. And of course, where your pit crew are changes from practice and qualifying to the race, because in the race, the pit stalls reorder based on the qualifying times. We're looking at Eugenio Pulici here. Ooh. Shallow on the entry, very oversteery on the exit. That ain't how to do it, and he's gone and parked it.
Yep. Guess he's had enough for tonight. Wow, as we see our leaders, that's a great camera angle, ripping through there. Tire right over the camera. Fourth car in the group, hanging it out in the dirt. Everyone on the brakes, little stop and go here. Some great racing in this nice drone shot.
The best thing about our helicopter is it knows how to focus the camera as well. But a lot of pit callers behind our leaders, they all stayed out. Ronnie Coates stayed out, but Mitchell Peake, Michael Coates, Odyssey Adams, Geordie Fike, Brett Marshall, all these pro drivers coming in. Joel Singleton, the open class driver who was with them, stays out and ends up a little bit alone. But it gets a little busy on pit lane now. Just crossing 20 minutes to go. About a lap ago, passing the halfway point of the race. And this is what I mean about the weird pit lane, right? Is there's 18 pit stalls here, and then the rest of them behind that, there's like a big break where the Comcast tower is, and then some of the drivers, like Rui Coimbra, are in that other segment. Race off of pit road here then, looking towards that blend that Alex so clearly laid up for us early, and it is a race off the pit exit, but you got to pass between the blue cones. And so Odyssey Adams just in front of Mitchell Peake, who's looking for a track position. Odyssey runs a little bit wide. Geordie Fike's watching on. Michael Coates had a bit of a slow stop, ends up behind these guys here as they're racing on their outlap.
Wow, this is some great racing, David. Those guys, they're not waiting for anything. They're racing right up the pit road side by side. 4 of them back here together. This is wonderful.
Mitchell Peake is the best placed car of those that are stopped, and the leaders are coming in now as well. 1 lap afterwards, all 4 of them in a line through that canyon of a pit entry around here. Now, they all qualified inside of the top 6, so they're not expecting to see their pit crew in this section of the pit lane. They're looking to get around that corner and find them in the next section. Similar thing happens with the endurance pit lane at Spa, where the pit boxes are broken up into 2 very, very distinct segments. Zeus Dalston, his second time on the lane, he's sitting there and he's the last car on track right now. So some dramas for Zeus Dalston. But how much fuel do our leaders want to take? Everyone behind's coming in as well. So Ronnie Coates, Nick Rice-Puto, Joel Singleton, Trevor Roy, everyone but Ian Giebler looks like they're coming in at the moment. Crossing 15 seconds of fuel for Timon Bramley. 16, 17. He might get beaten by some of these guys behind who had a chance to slipstream. Joshua Soto jumps them all, and therefore Bramley just in front of Hibbett. A little bit of traffic for them on the outlap here as well.
Yeah, we thought it might be people going long with the blend, but it was just our leaders blending into the guys who went long. It was the other way around. But yeah, this has certainly mixed it up here a bit as we see Soto trying to make a run for it. Yeah,
so very close to the leader on the pit entry, slightly quicker fuel time. Joshua Soto takes the net race lead. Now going to put Orlando Harrell between himself and the drivers that he's actually racing. We know Orlando Harrell's very, very heads up about these situations when he's in a little bit of traffic. He doesn't want to impede. He doesn't want to be the star of the show in this occasion. So when Bramley and Hibbett and others get close enough, he's going to let them through. But it's just sort of a symbol, really, of what a rapid stop Joshua Soto has had, that for at least a brief moment here, Orlando Harrell sits between him and his main competition. Other car in front here, Ray Lombardi, hasn't stopped yet. And Giebler hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, I think that maybe even the bigger story is what we see with Hibbett and Cots. You know, they were the big losers on that. I think they lost more than Sato gained.
So Giebler comes in, Ray Lombardi stays out, Orlando Harrell goes in, but Joshua Soto doesn't like this. He was looking down the inside, and now he sees Ray Lombardi run wide. He'll get past him. And there's Bramley and Hibbett that still need to clear. Ray Lombardi, who hasn't stopped yet in this race and will need to at some point. Your race leader now, Joshua Soto from Timon Bramley as he gets through. And Camden Hibbett will not want to wait at all to stay in touch with the race leaders.
Yeah, the top three are starting to make a run for it, boys. You better get on it. Fourth and fifth here, they're starting to be separated by quite a bit.
After Ian Giebler's stop, he's going to rejoin behind Joel Singleton, but ahead of Lee Martin. So it's not looking like that early stop from Lee Martin quite paid off because he was second when he stopped. Now it all goes through. He finds himself third in class, and also a long stop, a big fuel drop for Nick Rice-Puto has dropped him from fourth to fifth. Again, once it shakes out for the only car left to pit, Ray Lombardi. You're paying those European gas prices, or the California gas prices even. I guess that's how you do it. Long weekend in Queensland, Australia this weekend, and therefore they're fleecing us dry, man.
So it looks like Kotz was able to get around Nick there in the 69. I guess that was a pass for position, but
mainly happened through the pits, I think, as well, because you remember Ronnie Coates was sort of 3 seconds behind, but he's had a 4-second quicker stop than Nick Rice-Puto had. Ray Lombardi is finally in the Sonoma pit lane, and that means we're racing to the end in these final 15 minutes. Joshua Soto barely ahead of Timon Bramley, and then Camden Hibbett in third. They make their way through that corner at the top of the hill, and Soto getting a little hot in there, maybe feeling a little bit of pressure. It's getting a bit hot on the track as well, where the mercury continues to rise.
I think that Bramley is sniffing around looking for a chance to get back in the lead, and as tough as it is to pass here, I don't think he wants to hold off. I think he's ready to make that move as soon as he can get there.
Looked comfortable leading from the front in the early stint, didn't he? And he's going to look to the inside at the hairpin here. Nose not fully alongside. Forces the door open. Joshua Soto has to respect that he was going to go for it, but a lot of curb. Very, very tight line from Timon Bramley. And it means he's going to not only not take the race lead, he's going to get shoved back to third through these S's as Camden Hibbett, the young Spec Miata racer, moves up into second place. These top three battling will be a delight for Ronnie Coates and Nick Rice-Puto to see, because they would love to buy back into the leading fight that they dropped out of in the pit window.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's allowing them to get right back up in there a little bit. But overall, probably a good deal for Soto. Get these guys racing. Even if he still has one on his bumper, it's better than trying to take them one at a time. I think let them fight each other as hard as they can.
Top of the hill, Joshua Soto a little bit wide again, but still best placed. Bramley gets to pick and choose as the leaders run side by side towards the chicane. Definitely want to be where Soto is, and he'll take the race lead back. Camden Hibbett blocks out Bramley just a little bit, but that's side by side battling at the top of the hill through the chicane. It's what Ronnie Coates and Nick Rice-Puto just love to see, because they're suddenly back in touch with the leaders. I want to call this a 5-way fight for the lead at this point. And how about battle watch, battle check, because it's everywhere through the field. Mitchell Peak in 6th is the next group of cars with Odyssey Adams, Geordie Fike, Michael Coates. They're having a mighty, mighty fight down through the carousel this time. And then Joel Singleton and Trevor Roy 10th and 11th. This is Mitchell Peak and his group this time around. You got Joel Singleton, open class leader, 10th outright at the moment. And Ian Giebler's with, it's just dropped David Starr, Sean Hayes, Lee Martin, and whatever's going on in that little group. So second for Ian Giebler in the open class.
Hey, he's working up there on our buddy Brett Marshall.
Yeah, it sure is. So a lot could still happen in these little spots there. This is back with our leaders closer than ever before, specifically Coates and Rice Pudo as well. 10 minutes, 50 seconds to go, probably 7 laps in this course here, Sonoma Raceway, previously known by some other names. Change in the group behind. Infineon Raceway is the branding from when iRacing scanned it.
Yeah, Sears Point is the geographical name of the area. The track itself is not far from the bay, and you can go right out to the ocean. It's, as Dave mentioned, a wine area and very wonderful. Brambly looking quite pointy at corner entry and on the brakes. I'm not sure if that's just him trying to be racy or if the setup's just a little bit darty.
I've been told from drivers it is just a little bit, pointy. And the line's covered off. Not your typical racing line there, really, from Camden here, but he just doesn't want Bramley throwing a dive bomb in that section, sending them too wide, letting Joshua Soto get away with the race lead that he currently holds, but by a slender margin. And is Rice Pudo maybe getting just left behind a tiny bit?
Yeah, it looks like, maybe starting to fall off the back there. Up Alpe d'Huez here. As Ronnie Kotz, though, trying to collect his place at the back of the train and see if he can hook up here with our pole sitter Brambley and head to the front.
It's all about the games at this point now. 6 laps to go, 9 minutes to go, and where and when do you pull the trigger? Do you try to pass? Do you try to battle? Maybe it's not quite yet. This is Mitchell Peak. He's in 6th from Michael Coates. Him and Michael Coates went side by side for about 5 corners last lap, and Mitchell Peak was just able to hold on. Jody Fike and Odyssey Adams wanted not a whole lot to do with it. It's reflected in the lap times, where they lost about 3 seconds last lap in this pack.
Yeah, this has been some great racing. Oh, there we go. A little bit of contact.
Geordie Fike. Odyssey Adams Jr. hits him, and now Geordie Fike is backwards there. We'll take a look at exactly how it happens.
He just missed his braking point, I think, and yeah.
Leaders side by side live right now, and Joshua Soto just hangs on. Camden Hibbett tries to chop back in a line so Timon Bramley can't leapfrog ahead of him. Ronnie Coates, he is fully bought in, fully paid up member of the lead pack. Nick Rice Pudo is still 3.5 seconds behind them, but if they keep that up, you can drop 3-4 seconds battling around here. And Hibbett's got to defend again from 3rd place, and that sends him deep into the final corner. He gets into the side of the race leader, Joshua Soto, sends him around. Rice Pudo's going to get around, and now Camden Hibbett leads and is getting away. My oh my, drama at the final corner.
We'll have to wait till we can get another look at that one.
I've seen this happen before. You're looking in your mirrors, you're trying to cover off the guy behind, you get in deep, you hit the guy in front. He's looking in his mirrors, and donk at the apex.
I don't think so. I think maybe I think he might have turned across the nose there. I think 2nd place kind of had his nose in there, and maybe the leader turned across, and I think it was just converging lines. I think 2nd place would have made the corner and stayed on the curbs.
Looking from Camden Hibbett, who was 2nd place, he was looking in his mirrors right here, and then he gets in. There's like a 1/4 of a second there where you think, Soto maybe should leave the line open, but at about the point Soto starts turning into the corner, there's no overlap. So it's real touch and go there for me, to be honest. But we are not race control. Camden Hibbett leads the race by a second at the moment. Whether that puts a little question mark on him from that one. Bramley's gotten through in a second. Coates in third. Joshua Soto's been sent back to fourth alongside Nick Rice-Puto. They are not at all at risk of being caught by sixth place because they've already had their shenanigans, their battles, their side-by-side through the tricky, sometimes technical, sometimes blind corners of Sonoma Raceway. We are 5 minutes from the checkered flag. 3 or 4 laps, a little touch and go. How they calculate that one.
Yeah, it looks like Hibbett here starting to try to build the gap. He's got it out to almost a second now, almost out of DRS range. As we see Bramley really attacking the corners and the curves, throwing it up on 2 wheels here. All the way out, 2 wheels in the grass.
I've heard the only type of MX-5 drag reduction is a fastback hardtop. Maybe hanging on that
certainly, one. It would certainly look good on one of these.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't know. Already have don't offer.
They've got the RF for this generation is the closest you can get factory.
Yeah, but I don't know why Mazda got rid of the hard tops. You know what I mean? They should offer a removable hard top for these, and they should also have fastback edition. There's some awesome fastback hard tops out there for the NAs and the NBs.
The RF is kind of a fastback Targa, I think.
I thought that stood for really fat because it was so heavy. It had all those motors in it and to lift the lid and everything.
But it's a thing and they offer it. It's an option.
Well, they offer automatic transmissions, Dave, but we won't be getting one of those either.
So, touch and go if this is 2 or 3 laps to go based on the race pace of the leaders. 3.5 minutes left in what's been a dramatic, potentially controversial race for the lead. Camden Hibbett is out front at the moment. Timon Bramley is going to put him under all the pressure in the world. Ronnie Coates is in third, and here's Joshua Soto. He'll say probably that he got moved out of the race lead, sent back to fourth. He's got Nick Rice-Puto with him in fifth. I think the worries aren't over yet for Camden Hibbett, though, because he's got very, very quick Timon Bramley absolutely nipping at his heels with just a couple laps left in this one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. If I'm Hibbett, I don't think this is over by any stretch. It would be all defense from here. And just, where Bramley's been quick, so take away that line and don't let him go there. Make him go where he hasn't been.
Defense wins premierships, wins championships, I guess. You're going to be watching the AFL Grand Final tomorrow, Alex?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
This is our lead battle. The lap times are 1 minute 46, and look at how much time is left on the clock as they navigate the final corner. Don't think it's the white flag this time. I think Hibbett's going to have to hold on for 2 more laps. They are plus or minus 10 seconds on how many laps this race was going to go. 146 for a lap and 154 on the clock as they cross the start-finish line. So about 8 seconds means no white flag. Send him around 2 more times. Hibbett would have maybe liked to have seen a white flag. He's not going to get it.
Yeah, well, they have no one to blame but themselves, this top 5. If they were back there about 6th place, this could be the last lap. So here we go. Bramley, I think he's going to wait and make his move into one of these hairpins. Have to assume it's going to be the one coming out of this carousel, and then use that final one as the backup. Very pointy and right on the nose there for the 8 car. I've noticed that more than the others.
I noticed the brake lights kind of coming off and on as he worked his way through the corner. So he was rotating the car a lot more on the brakes than maybe Cam's Inhibit was. And don't count out Ronnie Coates. Never count out Ronnie Coates. Big concertina effect through the hairpin that time. Cam's Inhibit's just got to pick it all perfect through the S's this time around. And, well, for another time, keep an eye in his mirrors at that hairpin that works as the final corner. Time's about to, well, it will run out after they get shown the white flag. It'll run out just after they pass the start-finish line. That's the rallycross. That's not where the rallycross track is here at Sonoma Raceway. Simon Bramley, he's going to make his own, forge his own path. Not sure that's what an MX-5 is for. They make like Ford Broncos and Jeep Wranglers and all that stuff, if that's what you're into. But the white flag is out now. One more lap of Sonoma Raceway for Cam's Inhibit to hold on to try to be first across the line. Simon Bramley right behind him. Ronnie Coates hanging a couple of car lengths back, side by side, up towards the top of the hill here. Hibbert's got to be defensive, crosses back over underneath. Bramley trying to get the nose down the inside on the exit. Michael Coates has run into some problems. He's dropping back on the final lap, and I think there's damage on that car. Have we had another final corner? Bish bosh, that's where the action's been. We've seen it happen already. Zeus Dalston, Andy Kosick. We've seen it happen. Camden Hibbett, Joshua Soto. Michael Coates might have had it happen to him as well.
Yeah, it's always tough down there, as we see every year with the NASCAR boys coming to town. But today we're watching Simon Bramley take the fight to Camden Hibbett down here to the hairpin as we see the 8 dive out wide.
Hibbett super protected the inside there, parks it at the apex. Bramley gets a massive ride over the curb. He's going to get dropped backwards. The moment Ronnie Coates was waiting for, he goes to second place. But Hibbett's got a couple car lengths being let off the hook. You've just got to get the perfect line, flow the speed and the momentum, feel at one with the car. By Atai for the MX-5 through here for Camden Hibbett. It maybe saves him from getting dive bombed at the final hairpin there. Bramley might have shot his shot a little too early. Last braking zone of the lap on the perfect line. Hibbett will power out of the hairpin towards the checkered flag at Sonoma Raceway to take the race win from Ronnie Coates and Simon Bramley. There's your podium in quick succession across the line. Joshua Soto and Nick Rice-Puto are 4th and 5th. Mitchell Peake looks like he's going to be next to cross the line. He's managed to drop the pack. Joel Singleton's going to be the open class winner in 8th outright. Good points haul from there with some pro class cars behind him. Trevor Roy, Odyssey Adams, Brett Marshall, before you get to Ian Giebler, 2nd in open class. And then David Starb, Jordy Fike, Sean Hayes. I think there's a few drivers that might have calculated their fuel on this going one lap shorter and have been a little delayed on this final lap. So, you're on the drag strip there, Mr. Coates. There's damages already on that from before. So he's racing Mitchell Peake. Peake's defensive to the inside of the final hairpin there. Michael Coates round the outside. Does he? Oh, he clips one of the tyre bundles. Wow. And he's done it to himself.
Wow. That I haven't seen parts removed from a car that fast since February of this year. But that was impressive. Producer, could we get a shot of Bramley through that? I think he had 4 in the air there at one point after the results here.
We've got a lot to get to as we wrap up the action of Spec-5 World Tour Round 6 at Sonoma. Camden Hibbett took the win from Ronnie Coates, Timon Bramley, Joshua Soto, Nick Rice-Puto and Mitchell Peake. You see Joel Singleton there. In the end, 7th outright. Great result. Trevor Roy, Odyssey Adams and Brett Marshall, the top 10. Then Ian Giebler, David Starb, Geordie Fike, Sean Hayes, Lee Martin, Brian Zabelski, Greg Mack, Ray Lombardi, Andy Kosick, Orlando Herald, Paulo Coimbra, Rui Coimbra. I think with the last cars on the lead lap, Michael Coates ended up 1 lap down, and then retirement, Sue Styleston, Gianni Mauro, Eugenio Polici, Gareth Brocklesby, and Greenwood, Steve Greenwood, maybe someone else Greenwood, never took the
Lee
race
Greenwood.
Start. Sorry?
Lee Greenwood, he's a famous American singer.
Okay. Now, we're looking at what you requested. You were after the final lap at the hairpin, Alex?
At the double apex then, where he launched it in... Yeah.
Let's see if we can get that last lap desperation from Timon Bramley. You know, what do they say? You don't want to die wondering. So he's in second. He goes for the race win, doesn't get it, ends up going back to third. Alex, what did you see from this?
I guess I saw more of the apex than Bramley did when he turns in here. I think he just tried to close the door and just launched it there across the curbs. That was awesome. Great save, kept it on the pavement, and only lost 1 position.
Now, they do launch rockets from California. Bramley, you get more grip when they're on the pavement, but I mean, you've got to give it a go, don't you? That's the racer mindset.
Yeah, I think he was just trying to get in there and protect that second place, and then missed his turning point. But great racing tonight.
Let's take another quick look at the results here as we try to get our class winners from Sonoma. Open class was Joel Singleton. Can I see him? No. All right, well, we'll go to Camden Hibbett. Pro class winner, Camden Hibbett. We'll get the elephant out of the room first of all. What did you see with Joshua Soto?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it in depth yet. I was thinking he was early on the brakes. I wasn't planning on going for a move there. I definitely did not want to get the lead that way. So I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet, but I'm sorry, Josh, to end your race that way. I thought I had, from what I could see, my initial thoughts were I had position on him. It was a little bit late, but it was a racing deal. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna make a claim, if you will, on who's at fault in my opinion just yet. But other than that, it was pretty good racing tonight. Definitely pretty clean. Other than that incident, it was kind of a struggle. Super hard to pass tonight. I don't know if it was just because of how this track flows and not a ton of drafting straightaways. It was super slick tonight. So definitely a fun, it was a tough race. It was definitely a bit of a twist from what we're used to in this league.
Yeah, so from, a week ago, Daytona, it's all about being part of the pack and, you want to leapfrog, you want to make sure your little group is going as fast as it can. Here, a lot less passing. I think a lot more blind corners as well.
Yeah, definitely more elevation. There's probably 3 or 4 that I'm thinking of right now that are either blind crests, blind exits. I mean, it's super sketchy. It is an awesome track to drive. I wish we would have ran the Cup Historic, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. But yeah, fun racing. Definitely a change from last week. Last week, I hate to say it, but was pretty much luck based, and whoever put themselves in the lucky spot coming out of the bus stop. And this is more of a racing type track. You gotta actually work your way to the front before the last straightaway if you want a shot at winning. But yeah, it's really fun tonight.
Well, congratulations to you once again. What's happening in the world of Camden Hibbett racing wise?
So today we just got done with the Racing Prodigy selection show. Wasn't selected, but we are time attacking. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm making it a word for the PRL Chevy Silverado Cup. So hopefully to make it into semifinals and finals with that, and if not, have another chance at the selection show. Real world wise, Spec Miata is kind of shut down for the season. Hoping to go down to Florida, Sebring or Homestead this winter, and then running some Spec Miata and whatever else opens up next year up in the Great Lakes region. So yeah, looking forward to get next season started. Probably going to be a little bit of time out of the car this winter, but that's the way it goes when you live up in Ohio. So.
Yeah. So then a bit of a whiplash in the Spec-5 World Tour schedule, because next round we go to Silverstone on the classic Grand Prix layout. I think that's going to be pretty high speed as well, but very flat and probably a lot more fish and chips.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of experience. I don't even know that I own the track yet for Silverstone.
Free content, Legacy.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's Legacy Silverstone. Okay. So yeah, don't have a ton of experience with it. Actually, I think I ran one of my first Spec-5 races was there. So I take that back. I have a little experience, but not recent. So definitely spending a pretty good chunk of time practicing for that this week. But yeah, it should be good fun. I know the new version of Silverstone is pretty high speed, like you said. So yeah, should be good fun next week. Hoping to have some more tight racing. And again, I apologize to Josh Soto. I never want to race that way, and I never want to end a competitor's race, especially racing for the lead with 10 minutes to go like that. So.
Well, congrats. We'll see you in a week's time, and we're sort of right into the thick of Spec-5 World Tour action. And I'm sure you've taken open class before. You're looking for that pro class this season.
Yeah, and I have not. I went straight to pro. I've been second 3 seasons in a row. At the end of the championship, I believe that it's close. Second the last 2 seasons at least. I know that. So definitely still looking to finally break through. I know it's pretty tight between me and Ronnie, and then I think Timon is right there as well. So it should be a pretty good points battle heading into the final stretch of the season.
It'll be spicy, that's for sure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. See you guys next week.
Now, for whatever reason, our open class winner doesn't want to come and chat. No Joel Singleton. So that's going to wrap us up then, Alex. Good race from Sonoma. A couple little question marks, but I guess it shows it was a track where you had to work to pass. And when you got to do that, they're not all going to be tidy.
Yeah, for sure, David. It's a tough track, definitely a driver's track, and we talked about that in the pre-race, and most of our predictions came true. And most importantly, we saw some great racing here in the Spec-5 World Tour. So thanks again for having me, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Beauty. So that's everything. Spec-5 World Tour Round 6 from Sonoma. We're bringing you every race of Spec-5 World Tour this season weekly on HJBC. Wherever you're watching, do remember to subscribe. We'll see you in a week's time when Spec-5 World Tour heads to Silverstone.